Part 41. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 401. Huang Yiming's face suddenly became ugly when he heard this. He naturally understood that the other party was making random accusations. He immediately said cautiously, "Absolutely not. The Empire has no such intention." Hungfa pressed on step by step, "No, I think you have a lot. Okay, we won't say any more nonsense. Now we are waiting for your explanation. There is no point in staying here. Let's go. Anyway, we will stay here. If the Empire can't give a perfect explanation, don't blame us for being rude. Blood must be paid with blood, and someone must pay with his life if someone dies. All the Imperial personnel in this mansion will be sacrificed if they can't give an answer." At this point, Hungfa's threat was agreed by everyone. The representatives of the 31 sects stood up and walked out of the meeting room. They didn't give Huang Yiming any face and completely ignored his existence. The disregard from these representatives made Huang Yiming look a little gloomy, but his identity prevented him from making any rebuttal or provocation. Huang Yiming suppressed his anger and watched these people leave quietly. After all the representatives left the conference room, Lin Yi returned to the blind spot of the monitor outside and slowly fell from the ceiling. After landing in the power distribution room on this floor, the true destiny was dispersed. Looking at the 31 sect representatives going away in the passage, his eyes were slightly dignified, and he returned to the conference room in one step, looking at Huang Yiming with a gloomy face. "You don't have to be so gloomy. The purpose of these people is very simple. They just use this incident as an excuse to attack the Empire. They want the Empire to retreat in the next negotiation to facilitate their goal. You are just an innocent fish." Huang Yiming's face looked a little better after hearing this, and he looked at Ling Yi and said, "Mr. Detective, have you found the murderer now?" Lin Yi shook his head and said, "We haven't found the suspected murderer yet. The murderer is hiding very well. I can't find any traces. It seems that this matter is not as simple as we thought. By the way, I have a question, when did the two sects die?" Huang Yiming thought for a while and said, "The time of death of these two people was around 12 o'clock in the middle of the night." Hearing this, Lin Yi suddenly thought about it. 12 o'clock in the middle of the night? There is obviously something wrong here. Two possibilities. First, if you want to kill these two people, you must use some special weapons or abilities at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, and this thing is launched at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. Second, this is the time deliberately chosen by the murderer to create suspense or pure accident and coincidence. The time of death of these two people was yesterday and the day before yesterday, right? Huang Yiming nodded and said, "Yes, it was 12 o'clock yesterday and the day before yesterday." Lin Yi thought of this and had an idea in his mind, maybe it will happen tonight. Huang Yiming's face froze when he heard this. No way, it will happen again? This is outrageous. If there is another murder, I am afraid that all these people will explode. In panic, they may do something terrible. Thinking of 30 masters of the ghost fairy level, once they go crazy, the consequences will be unimaginable. Huang Yiming looked at Lin Yi and said, "Mr. Kellen, what should we do now?" Lin Yi thought for a moment and said, "Where do the elders of these sects live?" Huang Yiming thought for a moment, "They are assigned to the third floor. The second and fourth floors are empty. All the personnel have been cleared out." Lin Yi nodded slightly when he heard this. "Then I will stay on the third floor tonight. And you will immediately mobilize all the masters to enter the fourth and second floors. At the same time, the outside of the entire mansion and the rooftop must also be surrounded. The entire mansion must be surrounded tightly, but you must hide well and don't attract anyone's attention. If my guess is really, then something will definitely happen tonight. I will monitor all of them on the third floor. If any of them has a problem, I will rush there as soon as possible. and the murderer will definitely not be able to escape if I see him. Huang Yiming's face became uglier after hearing this. I don't have the authority to mobilize so many people now. Go find Mrs. Rose, the minister of Huabu. Only she has the authority to do this. Lin Yi nodded and said, it doesn't matter who has the authority. As long as someone follows my plan, the probability of us catching the other party will be much greater. At least so far, this is the most likely way to find the murderer. Huang Yiming and Lin Yi came to the monitoring room while talking. Standing in front of Mrs. Rose, Huang Yiming recounted Lin Yi's plan. After listening, Mrs. Rose frowned slightly on her beautiful face. A kind of pitiful expression made the staff in the office stop their work slightly. A beautiful face always attracts the attention of countless people, and it is a weapon by nature. Time passed by minute, and Mrs. Rose fell into deep thought. After a long while, he raised his head and looked at Lin Yi. Mr. Detective, your suggestion is very bold, and the price to pay is also very huge. I will mobilize a lot of forces to enter the mansion. If nothing is found, the consequences will be quite troublesome. Lin Yi smiled and said, everything has a price. I just made a suggestion. It's up to you whether to do it or not. After all, I'm just here to assist in the investigation. Mrs. Rose took a deep look at Lin Yi with a smile on her face. Okay, your suggestion is indeed very pertinent, and it is also the only possible way to catch the murderer at present. I will quietly arrange for someone to come in, so I look forward to your performance tonight, Mr. Detective. Mrs. Rose's voice was slightly dragged out, full of a seductive feeling, the voice of a delicate woman. Lin Yi didn't care about Mrs. Rose's style. At this time, waves of impulses were rising in his swallowing thief soul. But they dissipated in an instant under the power of the Lotus God Jade. Mrs. Rose's voice was full of seductiveness, stirring up the most primitive impulses of human beings. But unfortunately, this impulse was firmly suppressed by the Lotus Divine Jade. After Mrs. Rose agreed to Lin Yi's plan, she quickly made a phone call and mobilized people. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 402. However, these people did not come in from outside the mansion. They quietly appeared from the basement of the mansion. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Obviously, there is a secret passage in the basement of the entire mansion. In addition to facilitating escape, it is also convenient to mobilize troops to deal with emergencies. All the people who came this time were martial arts masters, each of whom was at the level of human immortals, and the number was 30. They were fully armed, each wearing a tactical suit, and equipped with hot and cold weapons, armed to the teeth. Even Lin Yi did not dare to say that he could definitely resist. They quickly took the elevator and quietly entered the second floor of the mansion. There was also a rooftop on the fourth floor. Each area could see each other, completely blocking the entire mansion. At this time, outside the mansion, in each dark corner, there were people quietly guarding there. Even the nearby buildings had snipers in place. At Mrs. Rose's command, this place became a battlefield. A tragic war could break out at any time. And all this was within Lin Yi's calculations. He had silently arrived at the third floor and hid on the ceiling of the corridor. He activated the True Fate Daoji and the True Fate Wujiang, silently observing and monitoring these foreign affairs elders. Under his surveillance, he could see that these people were almost all practicing in their rooms. And he used the light of the True Fate Daoji to carefully observe their practice methods, not missing a single one. This is a pleasant surprise. I can actually learn so many Ghost Immortal Dao level skills at once. At this time, Lin Yi was like a mouse in a rice warehouse, so happy. Under the power of the True Fate Daoji, one after another of the information existed in his mind, and quickly outlined into three-dimensional illusory human figures. Countless information was quickly gathered and finally intertwined into one after another of the skills. These powerful ghost immortals had no idea that someone outside was observing them and secretly learning their skills. Because of the continuous deaths in the past 2 days, they did not go out and were very cautious. Even everyone arranged various defensive things in their rooms. Some were forbidden methods, some were formations, and some were magic weapons. As long as any unknown person broke in, there would be a thunderbolt strike immediately, and the intruder would be killed. At this time, Huang Yiming and MRS Rose were standing in the monitoring room. They were observing every corner of the mansion through the monitors. Even some blind spots that existed originally had been installed with wireless monitoring devices. In this short period of time, the entire mansion has completely lost any privacy. As long as an unknown person enters, it will be exposed immediately. Even micro-monitors appeared in the canopy of the corridor. At this time, Lin Yi had already converted his skills into illusionary ghost immortal Dao. At the same time, he performed the true destiny, and the whole person was shrouded in a fantasy. On the dark ceiling, even those micro-mobile monitors could not detect his existence. It was his suggestion to let Madame Rose and the others monitor the ceiling, because he could hide in the ceiling and enter each room, so the murderer could also do it. However, although Madame Rose and the others responded immediately, the result Lin Yi saw according to his own observation was: although these micro-monitors are powerful, they cannot completely monitor any existence. There are too many unknown means in this world, and technological items do not mean that they can control everything. However, this was also within his expectations. After all, the mysterious power that killed the two elders was very mysterious. There must be an unknown existence hidden behind it. Even Lin Yi had vaguely thought in his heart, maybe it was not done by these people from the sect, but by some strange existence. But what strange existence? It can kill two elders without leaving any traces. This is very terrifying. A trace of worry flashed through Lin Yi's heart. He always felt that this matter was treacherous and this opponent seemed extraordinary. Time passed by minute, and soon it was around 11:50 in the middle of the night. Lin Yi looked at the time and became more cautious, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. He turned on the light of the True Destiny Daoji to the maximum, constantly sweeping across the mansion, searching for suspicious traces. If there is anything, it's almost time to act now. Just as he was thinking, a wisp of invisible smoke appeared in the mansion at some point. This wisp of smoke was very transparent and blended perfectly with the air without any trace. This wisp of smoke floated out from one of the 31 sect elders. At this time, the elder was immersed in cultivation, and he did not see wisps of smoke slowly penetrating from his skin. The smoke slowly left here with the flow of air. At this time, the soul in this elder's body was undergoing incredible changes. His soul was like encountering sulfuric acid, quickly melting and transforming into wisps of smoke. And such an elder was completely unaware, or he had fallen into a coma and could not react at all. At this time, Lin Yi, who was observing the entire building, quickly discovered the changes in the elder. He saw that the elder's soul was rapidly melting. Wisps of strange smoke floated out from the elder's body. It spread along the vents to other rooms. And these smokes were very smart, as if they had reason, and did not float randomly, but locked a pipe and floated towards the room of another sect elder. When the soul of the sect elder completely dissipated, the last wisp of smoke also left his body. This wisp of smoke was like a dream, quietly coming to the room of another sect elder. It was as soft as a veil, blending into the air, and slowly being inhaled into his body along with the elder's breathing. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi immediately knew that the enemy this time was really a weird existence. And it was a weird existence that had never been seen before, and no weird power could be seen on his body. But Lin Yi's true destiny insight saw through the essence and immediately saw through the foundation of this smoke. At the same time, he was also very confused. Why didn't I find any traces of this strange existence when I watched these people today? Lin Yi did not rush to take action, but instead looked closely at that room. The elder of the sect in the room was inhaling all the strange existence like smoke into his body. After this wisp of smoke entered the body of the elder of the sect, it would rush directly to the Taoist palace of the elder of the section. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 403. In theory, foreign objects entering the Dao Palace will be detected immediately, and the souls of the ghost immortal Dao are not vegetarians. But now it seems that the souls in the Dao Palace have no perception at all, which is very frightening. The smoke completely avoids the soul's keen detection ability. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with a trace of disbelief and an unprecedented solemnity. This means that even the masters of the ghost immortal Dao have no resistance to some specific strange existences. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little cold. If there are more of these strange existences, the result will be very dangerous. Maybe it will lead to the death of a large number of high-level monks. This strange existence must be captured and let the Imperial Research Institute study it. Find a way to defend it, otherwise it will definitely cause huge losses. Although Lin Yi doesn't care about anything, he believes that there are tall people to support the sky when it falls. But since he has seen this matter, he must expose it, otherwise the damage caused by this unknown existence will exceed imagination. After seeing the threat of this strange existence, Lin Yi had a clear plan in mind. He did not directly stop the strange existence from invading the Foreign Affairs Elder, because he needed to prove the existence of the strange existence in public. So the Foreign Affairs Elder was the object of sacrifice. He quietly waited for the strange existence to enter the body of the Elder. When the last wisp of mysterious smoke disappeared, Lin Yi knew that the time was ripe. He slowly left the ceiling area and directly found the location of Mrs. Rose and Huan Yiming. At this time, the two were in the monitoring room, staring at the screens with solemn faces. Lin Yi entered the monitoring room silently and stood behind everyone, like a ghost. "Everyone, I have found the murderer." Hearing Lin Yi's voice, everyone turned their heads in horror and looked at Lin Yi, who appeared behind them. Especially Mrs. Rose showed a glimmer of surprise in her eyes. Lin Yi was able to escape her perception and appear behind her, which made her a little unbelievable. How did he do it? For Lin Yi, a sense of vigilance suddenly rose in her heart, which was a wariness of the unknown. Huan Yiming showed a trace of joy when he saw Lin Yi. "Mr. Detective, are you telling the truth? Have you really found the murderer?" Lin Yi smiled and nodded. "Yes, I really found the murderer, but it's different from what you guessed. This is a very dangerous existence. I hope you can make full preparations and completely seal the entire building. Deploy a powerful formation to block the entire space and time. Otherwise, I'm afraid that when we catch the murderer, he will escape." Hearing Lin Yi's words, Mrs. Rose and Huan Yiming both looked grim. This detective actually proposed to block the entire space and time. It is conceivable that the murderer he saw must have amazing means. Thinking of this, the two couldn't help but frowned. Mrs. Rose thought for a moment and said, "It will take an hour to set up the formation. I need to borrow the completed formation magic weapon temporarily. During this time, is it possible for the murderer to escape?" "Don't worry, the murderer will continue to commit crimes as long as we can't find him. So you can arrange it with confidence, and I will keep an eye on him." Lin Yi turned around and opened the door of the monitoring room, and walked out slowly. "I will come to you again when you have arranged it." As he said this, he had disappeared at the door. At the same time, he entered the ceiling again and moved slowly in an empty place. Watching Lin Yi leave, Mrs. Rose immediately dialed the phone in her hand. "Headquarters Chief, we have found the murderer here, but we need to borrow the blocking formation, and we need to block the level of time and space. It seems that there is a very dangerous existence on the other side, according to the detective we invited. After Mrs. Rose finished speaking, a hoarse voice sounded on the other side, "Okay, I will have someone send the maze chessboard over. Catch the murderer and solve the whole thing as soon as possible." Mrs. Rose nodded, "Yes, headquarters chief." The headquarters of the Men in Black is located in the basement of a building in Honglian City. There is a huge hall filled with countless people and screens. Busy staff are constantly making calls, issuing orders, conveying information, etc. On the second floor above the lobby, there is a middle-aged man in black, sitting in an office that overlooks the entire hall. The head of the Men in Black, Gu Taiji. At this time, he put down the phone in his hand and dialed another number. "Minister Blackthorne, take out the maze chessboard and send it to the diplomatic embassy, seal it off, and help Minister Flower solve the case." On the other end of the phone, a man with an exquisite badge on his chest nodded. "Yes, Mr. General." After the general hung up the phone, a gleam of light appeared in his eyes. "Interesting, Mrs. Rose found the murderer so quickly. I have also read the case. There is no trace at all. It seems that Mrs. Rose either got lucky or got help from a master." Thinking of this, he couldn't help but reveal a mysterious smile on his face. Soon he came to the management warehouse under the headquarters of the Men in Black. The guard here is an old man in his 70s or 80s, who doesn't look special. But Blackthorne is very respectful to this old man. "Sir, I received an order from the head of the headquarters to come and get the time and space chessboard." The old man glanced at him and smiled slightly. "Xiao, wait a minute, I'll get it for you." As he said that, he opened the door of the warehouse, and there were rows of shelves inside, on which various items were placed. All these items exuded a mysterious atmosphere, as if each of these things had a unique power. The old man wandered around in the warehouse and stopped next to a shelf, which was covered with various sets of magic tools, some of which were swords, some were pictures, and there were bells, knives, etc., all kinds of things, one set after another. At this time, his eyes fell on a chessboard, and with a light wave of his hand, the chessboard and 2 chess bowls full of chess pieces fell into his hands. He quickly came to the gate with the chessboard and placed it in front of Blackthorne. "Time and space chessboard, be careful, it is very dangerous to use." Blackthorne nodded, "I understand, thank you sir." Looking at Blackthorne's back as he left, the warehouse manager showed a trace of thought in his eyes. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 404. Sealing time and space, it seems something terrible has appeared. But they should be able to handle it. Thinking of this, he continued to sit in his seat and began to sip tea leisurely. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. If the sky falls, there will be tall people who can hold it up. Old man, I'd better spend the rest of my life in peace. Blackthorne took the space-time chessboard and left the headquarters of the Men in Black, then got into a shared black car and drove quickly towards the diplomatic residence. At this time, the mansion was peaceful and nothing happened, because no one knew that another elder had died. Lin Yi stayed in the ceiling on the 3rd floor, staring at the foreign affairs elder who was corroded by the mysterious existence. His eyes were operating to the extreme, and he was carefully observing the palace of the parasitic foreign affairs elder. At this time, subtle changes are taking place there. That wisp of dream-like smoke was eroding and spreading bit by bit in the soul of this elder. What surprised him the most was that this foreign affairs elder didn't feel anything at all. He didn't even realize that his soul was being eaten. This is a very amazing phenomenon. You must know that the soul is the condensed thing of the soul and represents the entire essence of a person. And this kind of thing was damaged without even noticing it. Logically speaking, this is completely impossible to happen, but it did happen again. That's why he carefully observed the mystery of this change. And through continuous observation, he finally understood what was going on. The function of true fate interpretation is extremely powerful. As long as he observes carefully, nothing can escape his analysis. In his sight, he could clearly see the smoke transformed by this strange existence when it came into contact with the basic unit of the soul. A basic unit that will blend into the soul like a wisp of smoke. Then the part of this weird existence that is integrated into it will slowly begin to merge with the basic unit of the soul structurally. There is nothing harmful about this fusion, just like sugar water dissolving into water. Although its properties have changed, it is still a liquid and still has the same shape. At this time, the strange existence is integrated into the basic particles of the human soul. The basic particle appearance of this soul has not changed, but its essence is changing into something else. And this process is very slow and will not cause alertness or rejection of the soul. And this creates the ability of this strange existence to invade the soul silently and swallow it completely. Lin Yi admired the ability of this strange existence, which meant that this strange existence could hardly be detected and was the top assassin. And he was vaguely aware of this strange existence, which seemed to be intelligent. Because when this strange existence was completely integrated into every particle of the soul, he seemed to have truly become this parasitic existence. Because it can control the person's behavior exactly as it was during his lifetime. During the meeting this morning, he didn't find anyone unusual, which could support his suspicion. It's really troublesome to have a weird existence with intelligence and be so secretive. Unless it can be taken down at once, there will be endless trouble if it escapes. Just thinking about it made him feel terrified. This strange existence was invading human bodies on a large scale and silently, devouring human souls. Then these swallowed people still live in the city like normal people. Leave others unaware. Until the entire city is devoured, the city will be completely destroyed. Although Lin Yi didn't want to meddle in other people's business, this existence had threatened the stability of Wanchaiwu's environment and was a huge time bomb for him. This kind of thing must be cleaned up, and there was a hint of cold murderous intent in his smart eyes. Time passed by, and soon Blackthorn's car arrived at the mansion. Ms. Rose had already arrived at the gate. She looked at Blackthorn stepping out of the car with a hint of surprise in her eyes, even though it's you. Blackthorn looked at Ms. Rose with an inexplicable smile on her face. What? Don't you expect me? I followed the commander's instructions and brought you what you need. Ms. Rose snorted coldly. Stop talking nonsense, take out the things and arrange them quickly. Blackthorn seemed to be used to Ms. Rose's cold words, and a strange smile appeared on his face. You are still so irritable, he. Let's go to the rooftop. Ms. Rose walked with Blackthorn with a cold face, boarded the elevator, and went directly to the rooftop. Standing in the center of the rooftop, the place was currently being monitored by 7 or 8 immortal masters sent by Madame Rose. Not to mention people, not even a bird can fly in from here. After the two arrived, the monitors just glanced at them and then continued their duties. This Blackthorn took out the chessboard and placed it in the center of the rooftop. Then he placed the black and white chess basins on the left and right. First, he took out a sunspot and placed it directly on the central Tianyuan. The next moment, a faint black light filled the chessboard, spreading from the rooftop to the entire mansion. In just a few seconds, the mansion was covered in a black film of light. Then he picked up a white piece and directly surrounded the black piece of the central Tianyuan. The next moment, a faint white light quickly diffused from the chessboard, wrapping up the black area again. The white light quickly dimmed, and the outside of the entire mansion was distorted. At this time, from the perspective of time and space, the entire mansion has been isolated from the outside world. This is very amazing. Such a large-scale time and space interference cannot be achieved by ordinary means. After doing everything, Blackthorn's face turned slightly pale, and his energy and soul thoughts were almost consumed by 99%. He looked at Madame Rose tiredly and said, "I can only do this much, and the rest depends on you." Madame Rose's face eased a little. "Don't worry, we will deal with it next, just keep an eye on the chessboard." As she said that, she turned and left the rooftop, and picked up the intercom in her hand. "Huang Yiming is ready here, and the time and space isolation has been activated." At this time, Lin Yi had already discovered the time and space fault outside the entire mansion. "Are you ready? Then you can get ready to start." Thinking of this, he slowly stood up, left the ceiling, and walked out of the blind spot of the surveillance. A few minutes later, he came to the monitoring room and looked at Huang Yiming. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 405. He just said, "Now, call all these foreign affairs elders to the conference room again. At the same time, mobilize all the troops outside the conference room. After they go in, completely block the inside and outside. Then, we will go in and catch the murderer." Hearing this, Huang Yiming nodded slightly excitedly. If he can accomplish this task this time, it will be a great achievement for him. He will get a generous reward and then step into the level of human immortals and truly become a middle-level backbone among the black-clothed men. Although he is a direct descendant, his situation is becoming more and more embarrassing as more and more people come. No power, but holding some power. Lin Yi naturally didn't know what he was thinking. About 20 minutes later, the elders came to the conference room again, but at this time they all looked very bad. In the middle of the night, they were practicing, but they were woken up. No one would be happy. If it weren't for the words that the murderer was found, they would probably quarrel directly. 30 foreign affairs elders from major sects appeared in the conference room, one less. This change instantly alarmed everyone. Only Hungfa of the Five Elements sect was the first to discover it, and he said at the same time, "Hey, why is Mr. Baiguang from the academy missing?" At this time, everyone's eyes showed a trace of solemnity, and they thought of a terrible guess. At this time, Huang Yiming, Lin Yi, and Madame Rose were all in the conference room. Seeing the solemnity on the faces of many foreign affairs elders, Madame Rose said, "You guessed right, Elder Baiguang from the academy is dead. And it is because he died that we found the traces of the murderer." Madame Rose clapped her hands. The door of the conference room was slowly pushed open, and a body was carried in. At this time, the body was covered with frost and lay on a stretcher. The man was wearing a white scholar's gown, his face was very calm, and he seemed to have died in his sleep. The performance was exactly the same as the other two dead. This state made all the elders present jump in their hearts, and an inexplicable fear enveloped them. Among them, the Hungfa of the Five Elements sect was the most gloomy. He was different from other sect elders. He came here to make some money, gain some political capital, and establish some achievements in the sect. Then his master would help him operate so that he could get a chance to move up to the next level. So he was the most active person in this meeting, asking the empire to give up more benefits. Other sects, seeing him stand out, followed him and cheered, happy to let him be the first bird to stand out. But now the sudden murder case made him feel a little dangerous, and he suspected that his mission this time would be a wrong judgment. He took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes, looking at Mrs. Rose with sharp eyes. "You said you found the murderer? What happened? Tell me." The death of 3 sects foreign affairs elders is not a trivial matter. If your empire can't give a satisfactory answer, I'm afraid war will be inevitable. At this point, his tone was already very severe. In fact, the people in each major sect knew that the long time had consumed too much of their foundation, and what they needed now was self-cultivation. But if the empire could not give a reasonable explanation for this incident, then they had to start a war to show their strength. Otherwise, the empire would see through their internal problems and might launch a full-scale attack to destroy these sects when they were at their weakest. How could others sleep soundly under the bed? The human psychology is the same in any time and space, any world, and no one is willing to tolerate others to share their interests and power. Looking at the angry Hungfa, Madame Rose smiled slightly. Don't worry, everyone, since we have summoned everyone here, we have naturally discovered something and will give you a satisfactory answer. As she said that, she looked at Lin Yi. Mr. Detective, it's your turn now. Lin Yi nodded and walked out. His eyes swept over the crowd, and said in a low voice, "First of all, I already know who the murderer is this time. Neither the Empire nor your section. But..." At this point, Lin Yi deliberately paused, attracting everyone's attention. They all stared at Lin Yi, waiting for his next words. "It's our common enemy, a strange existence from another world." Hearing this, everyone paused, and then a strange atmosphere filled the entire conference room. No one could believe it, because they all knew about the strange existence, a group of monsters without any wisdom, killing by instinct. Of course, they were unwilling to believe that this monster could kill 3 peak-level practitioners of the Ghost Immortal Deo silently. Because there are too many factors involved. And if this strange existence is really so powerful, according to their nature, it is impossible for them to be so secretive. Everyone looked at Ling Ai with a suspicious look, including Huang Yiming and Mrs. Rose, who all looked unconvinced. They have been studying strange existences for quite some time. But they have never seen a highly intelligent strange existence. At most, they are strange beings transformed from human resentful spirits, but these strange beings do not have high intelligence. Their only core of operation is their obsession before death. Thinking of this, Madame Rose and Huang Yiming suddenly became a little worried. If Ling Ai's guess is wrong, then all the elders of the sect present may burst into boundless anger. At this time, they can only make 2 choices. One is to push Ling Ai out to prevent disasters, and the other is to go to war with the sect. Thinking of this, the 2 of them suddenly felt extremely heavy. At this time, Hungfa laughed loudly, pointed at Lin Yi and said, "You are lying. We have also studied strange existences. To do a murder like today, you must have a high degree of wisdom. You said that strange existences killed them. What evidence do you have?" "No evidence. Are you shirking responsibility?" Hearing Hungfa's question, Lin Yi smiled and said, "Don't worry, I naturally have evidence to prove my words. By the way, let me tell you first, the entire mansion has been closed by the time and space fault, and no one can get out. Including the murderer." Hearing these words, the elders of the major sects were all shocked, and then looked around vigilantly. The underlying meaning of Lin Yi's words is that the murderer is among them, or still in this mansion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 406. Suddenly, various lights shone on the elders of these sects. These lights quickly protected them, and they were the lights of magic weapons. They looked at everyone around them very vigilantly. Lin Yi could clearly feel that among these people, the highest power absorbed by the magic weapons was almost twice the power in their bodies. Is this the power of the 3rd level of the Ghost Immortal Deo? The effect of absorbing external energy is simply amazing. In terms of combat power alone, he is not as good as most people here. He turned his head to look at Madame Rose, with a hint of inquiry in his eyes. He was asking Madame Rose if she could suppress these sect elders. Madame Rose looked at Lin Yi's eyes, nodded slightly, and reassured him. Seeing the calm eyes of Madame Rose, Lin Yi knew what was going on. Since you can suppress everything, it will be very simple. He looked at the nervous elders of the sect again. Don't be nervous, Our empire has the ability to suppress this murderer. Now, first of all, let me determine who the murderer is. He looked at Hungfa, although I don't want to say this, it's unfortunate. Elder, you are dead. Everyone was stunned when they heard Lin Yi's words, and then the elders around Hungfa quickly moved away, looking at Hungfa with a weird look on their faces. They couldn't see anything wrong with Hungfa at all, and he didn't look like he was dead. They looked at Lin Yi with some doubts, waiting for his answer. Hungfa was shocked, and at the same time, he was furious. What? I'm dead? Are you crazy about gains and losses? As he said, his whole body was filled with a terrifying five-color brilliance. That represents the five forces of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. I don't know when a colorful feather fan appeared in his hand, and the fan is divided into 5 colors. Black, yellow, green, gold, and red represent the colors of the 5 elements. This feather fan complements his spirit and can release a terrifying attack at any time. Everyone looked at him vigilantly. The elders were all frightened, and any possible threat would make them very alert. At this time, Lin Yi smiled slightly. Elder, don't be nervous. Since I said you are dead, there is naturally evidence. At this time, all the elders have moved away from Hungfa and looked at him vigilantly. In a state of uncertainty, they all let Lin Yi take the lead. Lin Yi naturally saw the actions of these elders. But he didn't care. With the true destiny, he could face any danger calmly. At this time, Hungfa suddenly calmed down and looked at Lin Yi coldly. Okay, since you said I'm dead, then show me your evidence. How did I die? If you can't tell me 123, no one can save you today. Lin Yi couldn't deny it, and said with a relaxed smile, I'm afraid there is no chance for the elders. Then I will solve the doubts for the elders. First of all, this strange existence is in a wonderful state. It is an invisible strange existence, which cannot be detected or seen by the naked eye, and is in an unknown space-time level. Secondly, it will enter your body in a way that does not bring any threat, and any of your alert systems cannot detect its existence. And this strange existence will enter your body through your breath in the form of smoke, and finally reach your Deo Palace directly, that is where your soul is. This strange existence has a fusion ability beyond imagination. It will combine with your soul silently and will not cause any danger until it is completely integrated with your soul. At this time, it will undergo a huge change. It will start from the most basic ions of each of your souls and erode them bit by bit. And this erosion is very weak, you won't even feel it at all. Moreover, every soul material particle eaten, the strange existence will become a brand new soul material, still maintaining the integrity of the soul. Even if your own soul is being eaten bit by bit, you will never notice it. Hearing this, everyone was horrified, as if they saw themselves being eaten bit by bit, and goosebumps all over their bodies. At this time, Hungfa's face became more and more ugly. If it was really as Lin Yi said, then he was really dead. But he naturally wouldn't believe it, and sneered, "This is all your one-sided statement, there is no solid evidence, who do you think will believe you?" Lin Yi laughed, "I said so, of course there is evidence, you don't need to rush to explain, because the reason I told you all the situation is just to inform you that the strange existence in your soul has been discovered. It's useless to hide. I have found you." At this time, everyone looked at the expression on Lin Yi's face, and they all looked at Hungfa with a weird look. Many elders really didn't want to believe it. What kind of weird existence can erode them silently? This directly threatens their lives, which is something they have never experienced before. They can even think that if this kind of existence appears on a large scale in this world, it will be a disaster for mankind. Everyone's expression gradually became serious. Anyone would express the highest vigilance for the existence that could threaten their life. At this time, Hungfa was almost furious. His heart was filled with endless anger, and a feeling of grievance arose from his heart. At the same time, there was an uncontrollable rage. The breath of his whole body began to fluctuate violently, and the essence of the 5 elements was injected into the treasure fan in his right hand. I asked you to talk nonsense, go to hell. Suddenly, he made an amazing move. He raised the treasure fan in his hand and fanned it towards Lin Yi. Countless colorless lights flashed on it and turned into a 5-colored fine needle. At this time, someone exclaimed, 5 elements extinction needle. At this time, Lin Yi smiled at the corner of his mouth, and did not dodge, but just watched the arrival of the needle calmly. The 5 elements extinction needle of the 5 elements sect is known as the best penetration in the world. Any barrier of material energy will be pierced. But Lin Yi did not dodge at this time, because at this time, Mrs. Rose took action. I don't know when a black chess piece appeared in Mrs. Rose's hand. She held the black chess piece in her hand and swung it at the oncoming 5 elements extinction divine needle. The next moment, a huge force spread out from the air. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 407. Instantly, the whole room froze. A feeling of terror instantly enveloped everyone's mind. The 5 elements extinction needle also froze in the air, unable to move forward. All the elders had a thought in their minds. Time and space are frozen, this is a formation. Suddenly, everyone knew what was going on. The whole mansion was in a mysterious formation without a sound. Remember the domain name of this site, Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Madame Rose used the power of injection to block everything. Obviously, the Empire has prepared everything and is waiting to close the net. All the elders' faces changed slightly. At this time, Lin Yi smiled at Hungfa, who was unable to move under this huge force. Ha ha ha, at this point, you drive a puppet to kill me, you want to escape yourself, right? But we have already calculated your actions, this place has been covered by the formation of time and space. Don't say it's you, even if it's a being above the ghost fairy, it's impossible to leave and break through here. Now you only have one choice, just surrender obediently. Lin Yi still just talked nonsense and didn't go over. Because he was not sure if this strange existence had any other abilities. And what he was most wary of was this strange existence, which seemed to be an intelligent existence. At this time, a strange smile suddenly appeared on Hungfa's face. Everyone in the conference room who saw this smile felt a little shocked. They felt that something bad was happening. In Lin Yi's eyes, the light of the true destiny was flashing, and he had captured the changes in the other party's body. Not good, he is going to self-destruct, Madame Rose, be careful. While speaking, Hungfa of the 5 elements sect began to swell violently. The elders around were all shocked. They knew that Hungfa was really dead and completely controlled. At this time, they were all frozen by the power of time and space. The only thing they could do was to quickly inject their power into their defensive magic tools. They were lit up with various colors of light, covering the surface of their bodies, and quickly enhancing their defense. At this time, Mrs. Rose's eyes showed a trace of solemnity. Holding Heese's right hand, she suddenly grabbed towards the void of Hungfa's expanding body. A stronger power permeated the surrounding space, and even a distortion could be seen covering Hungfa's surroundings. This was obviously to block his power and prevent the damage from his explosion from spreading. But for Hungfa, who was already determined to die, this distortion and closure could not stop him from moving. Or it could not stop the strange existence in his body from moving. Rumble. The 5-color light exploded from Hungfa's body, and even the 5-color treasure fan in his hand exploded at the same time. The violent power raged in the twisted barrier. The huge power made the barrier tremble, and then it continued to be bumpy. In just a few seconds, the barrier began to tremble violently, at least tens of thousands of times per second. Crack. A sound like a break in time and space, an interesting barrier appeared, dozens of cracks. Strands of light of various colors gushed out from it, quickly raging in the conference room. All the tables and chairs were shattered by the impact of these lights in an instant. Several elders were hit by this light and flew out directly, hitting the wall heavily. However, they all had protective magic tools, which helped them resist the impact of these leaks at the critical moment. At this time, Lin Yi had already used the boundless true destiny, and his eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny. He was observing all the power that was leaked out. He knew that the strange existence would not give up so easily. The other party must be waiting for an opportunity to appear, or creating an opportunity to escape. Lin Yi closely observed every trace of the explosion. Then he seemed to have grasped something, and the next moment, he suddenly rushed up. He slapped a palm at an empty area with nothing. The power of Lingbo flashed in his hand, and he formed the demon seal in his hand, carrying the infinite spiritual energy and brilliance, and slapped it into the void. Jijijiji. The strange sound rang out, deafening. Everyone's mind sank unnaturally, as if they had been hit hard, and there was a buzzing sound. At this time, a thick smoke quickly appeared from the place where Lin Yi slapped. The smoke gathered into a human-shaped existence. It was made of smoke. Although it turned into a human shape, his body seemed to have countless smoke flowing. At this time, everyone in the conference room came back to their senses from the chaos. The impact of the macro method explosion had slowly disappeared, trapped in the twisted barrier and finally extinguished. At this time, everyone's eyes fell on the flowing human figure not far from Lin Yi. This strange and terrifying existence made everyone feel a little frightened. Because this proved Lin Yi's words, some unknown existence really appeared, and silently eroded the elders of the four sects. Even these dead elders themselves didn't know how they died. There was anger and fear in everyone's eyes. They thought about whether they could escape if this strange existence chose them. The answer was no. They knew that if they were chosen, they would definitely die. A strong murderous intent rose in everyone's heart. No one would allow an existence that could threaten their life at any time to continue to live in this world. And this existence is obviously an enemy of mankind. Rays of light from magic weapons rose from the bodies of these elders. At this time, Lin Yi's voice sounded in their ears, "Elders, we can't kill him now." Hearing Lin Yi stop everyone from taking action, everyone frowned and looked at him. Lin Yi smiled and said, "Everyone, this strange existence is too dangerous. We must capture it alive and find the source of its ability. After research, we must develop a way to prevent this power as soon as possible. Otherwise, if a large-scale similar monster appears in the future, not only the Red Lotus Empire, but even the major sects will find it difficult to resist this existence." Hearing Lin Yi's words, everyone was awe-inspiring. They knew that what Lin Yi said was very correct. At this time, Madame Rose said, "Now I will use the power of the war to completely trap it. The power of time and space can isolate everything. No matter how mysterious his ability is, as long as time and space cannot be torn apart, he cannot escape. After catching him, the Empire will invite all major sects to go to the laboratory to study him together." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 408. After hearing this, the elders of the sect slowly calmed down the murderous intentions in their hearts. What happened this time gave them too much stimulation, and made them clearly understand that they were not the overlord of the Red Lotus world. There are many things in this world that can threaten their lives. Originally, these sect elders still had a sense of superiority. But these strange existences taught them a hard lesson. At the same time, the Empire's power also surprised them. In such a short period of time, a space-time series of formations was set up. This method would take even sects like them a while to achieve. Everyone is more and more impressed by the Empire. This is a giant force that far exceeds the ancient dynasties. They can no longer look at secular forces with the eyes of the past, but must treat them as equals. Many people's eyes fell on Lin Yi. They really wanted to know how this mysterious detective found the traces of this strange existence. At this time, the foreign affairs elder of the Red Lotus Immortal sect fell on Lin Yi, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Wait a minute, I'm afraid this matter is not that simple." Hearing his voice, everyone looked at him. At this time, the strange humanoid existence, I don't know if it was resigned to its fate or something, but it actually stayed in the corner and never moved. It just looked at everyone quietly, very strange. Madame Rose looked at the elder of the Red Lotus Immortal sect, her face condensed slightly. "Elder Hungry of the Red Lotus Immortal sect, I don't know what you mean." Elder Hungry sneered, "You actually put on a good show. This strange existence is so mysterious and unpredictable that we elders are not aware of it at all. This detective has only been here for a day, right? Can he find traces of it? You said there was nothing fishy in this, who would believe it? If I had to make a guess, I'm afraid this is a scene directed and performed by your Red Lotus Empire. You want to use both kindness and power to intimidate our section. I still want to gain an advantage in the negotiations, but the price is the lives of 4 elders in our section. Your Red Lotus Empire is really vicious. I'm afraid this monster's heels are also from your empire." Elder Hungry looked at Lin Yi with sinister eyes, as if he had decided that there was something wrong with him. At this time, the other elders suddenly came to their senses. They looked at the people of the Red Lotus Empire in silence. Some people showed a fierce look in their eyes, some people showed a look of understanding, and some people showed a trace of amusement. Obviously many of them have already tasted the meaning of Elder Hungry's words. In fact, most of what Elder Hungry said was just speculation. But now they have a unified position and need to support speculation like Hong Sun. Because if they don't do this, their sect will be at a disadvantage in this negotiation. Because the Empire found out who the murderer was for their sect, and at the same time, the sect showed its own powerlessness in this incident. This is tantamount to weakening one's own negotiating advantage and exposing the sect's shortcomings. Elder Hungry actually had only one purpose in saying this, which was to shift the responsibility for the entire matter to the Red Lotus Empire. No matter what the truth is now, it is no longer important. What is important is that they have to confirm this guess. The best way is to prove that there is something wrong with this great detective. Why can he find a strange existence that no one can detect? Moreover, Elder Hungry actually gave the Red Lotus Empire a step up. All the problems lie with the detective. Since he could find traces of this strange existence, did he arrange all of this for some ulterior purpose? For example, show your abilities during this crisis and gain the trust of the sect and the Red Lotus Empire. Soon everyone present quickly grasped the meaning of Elder Hungry's words. Even Ms. Rose has understood. Her face was uncertain, and she already understood what the Hungry Elder meant. The other party wants to put all the responsibility on the detective, a person from an unknown force. Now for the Empire, this is also a good solution, otherwise these elders will definitely fight for their own tasks. Even if the Empire and the sect go to war, it is not certain. At this time, Lin Yi frowned slightly when he heard the words of Elder Hungry. Naturally, he also heard the underlying meaning. Now this thing needs a scapegoat, and unfortunately, of all of them, he is the most suitable person for this position. However, he smiled faintly and said, "It's a good idea to be a donkey's liver and lungs. That's why I hate dealing with people with powerful backgrounds like you. Selling your teammates is always your favorite thing to do. However, let me reiterate. Weird beings from other worlds appear frequently. This is not a matter of one person, but a matter of concern to the entire Red Lotus world. This strange existence, if my guess is correct, should have come from another world. And the intelligent type. If you have time to blame the problem on me, it's better to seize it and study it carefully." But obviously no one would listen to him. Ms. Rose said at this time, "Elders, This detective was invited by the Empire, and we don't know his specific origin. As for the elders' speculation, let's catch this strange existence first. Anyway, no one can leave here today. Lin Yi didn't say anything at this time, and stood quietly aside. Although this place has been blocked by the time and space series formation. But as long as he wants, he can leave at any time. He wants to see how this farce will end. Thinking of this, a sneer appeared in his eyes. Elder Hungry smiled with satisfaction. Since the Empire has this intention, then it's fine. Mrs. Rose's words are actually equivalent to a statement that the Empire recognizes what Elder Hungry said. Everyone's negotiations have returned to an equal level again. As for the truth of the matter, it doesn't matter anymore. At this time, Mrs. Rose looked at the airflow in the corner, and a trace of murderous intent appeared in her eyes. It is because of this guy that the Empire is so passive now. Mrs. Rose's face rarely showed a trace of cold murderous intent, holding his right hand and raising it, grabbing the strange existence in the air. This claw instantly mobilized the power in the surrounding space. It turned into an interesting space-time barrier that completely enveloped the strange existence formed by the airflow humanoid. Unexpectedly, this strange existence did not resist, but quietly watched itself being blocked by the twisted barrier. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 409. It looked at everyone present quietly. It was so calm that it frightened everyone. A creepy feeling rose in everyone's heart. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. They felt that there seemed to be something wrong with this strange existence, but they couldn't tell where the problem was. At this moment, Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and knew where the problem was. At some point, a light stream of smoke had enveloped the entire conference room. These fumes were flowing slowly, but they did not make any dangerous moves. They did not even invade the bodies of these sect elders and imperial personnel. Lin Yi's voice sounded at this time, "Don't be careless, you haven't completely caught this thing. You only caught a part of it that was shown to you. The other parts are all over the hotel." Everyone was shocked when they heard this, and then suddenly understood what Lin Yi meant. Each elder pushed his power to the limit, completely sealed himself off, and left no area in contact with the outside world. Huang Yiming's face looked a little ugly. At this time, he pushed his spirit with all his strength to protect himself, and he didn't even dare to breathe the air outside. At this time, Lin Yi's voice continued to sound in their ears. "According to my observation, this monster may not have a specific body, but is made of pure smoke. Even as long as there is a wisp of smoke, he will not die. Mrs. Rose, I suggest mobilizing all the power of time and space immediately. Shrink from the outermost edge of the formation little by little, and compress all the air to one point. At the same time, filter everyone with the power of time and space. Don't let this weird smoke exist, and there is a chance to escape." Mrs. Rose heard Lin Yi's suggestion and nodded slightly. Her face became more solemn. At this time, as Lin Yi pointed out the weird existence that was originally quiet and motionless looked directly at him. This weird existence seemed to be staring at Lin Yi. Although the human-shaped existence formed by the airflow looks like a human body, he actually has no facial features or eyes. However, Lin Yi had a feeling that the other party was looking at him, carefully examining him, as if to remember it. At this time, Madame Rose had slowly raised her hand. Her face was very solemn, and a powerful force surged out of her body. All of it was injected into the chess piece in her right hand, and a magical force burst out from his hand. The power of the space-time formation of the entire mansion was connected to her. The next moment, starting from the border of the mansion, the edge of the area of the space-time blockade formation. The space-time distortion force there began to slowly appear and contracted towards the inside of the mansion. With the contraction of the space-time force, the air began to compress rapidly. A vacuum area was formed between this space-time force and the space-time force at the edge of the formation. In this area, the pressure quickly returned to zero. While the matter itself was in a negative pressure state of zero, repulsion between molecules began to appear. Some fragile substances exposed to this air quickly broke and decomposed. For example, paper, glass, tiles, etc. It was like a typhoon passing through, or the tragic scene after an earthquake. The twisted force continued to compress the air, and the air pressure inside the mansion rose rapidly. At this time, all the warriors felt the abnormality, but Madame Rose did not compress all the air in one breath. Instead, during this process, a gap appeared in the space-time formation outside. A large amount of air was put into the vacuum, and the air pressure balance there was quickly restored. Then, she picked up the intercom and notified all the people in the hotel to evacuate. After receiving the order, one figure after another quickly came to the first floor and walked towards the outside world. When they passed through the twisted space-time barrier controlled by Madame Rose, the power of space-time would tear all the materials on them except their bodies into pieces and leave them in the hotel. Then everyone who walked out became naked. Fortunately, there was another layer of space-time barrier outside, which distorted the outside world's perception of the inside, and could not see what happened in the mansion. Otherwise, this naked news would become tomorrow's front-page headline. When all other people in the hotel were evacuated, Madame Rose continued to control the space-time distortion and began to shrink. Fiercely compressing all the air, the internal pressure increased rapidly at an alarming rate. However, at this time, the other elders had already lit up their own magic weapons to resist the increase in pressure. They looked solemn and carefully protected their own areas. At this time, the twisted barrier controlled by Madame Rose had already reached the outside of the conference room. The air pressure had also increased to an alarming level. Everyone's face was a little red, and they tried their best to maintain the balance in their bodies. At this time, Madame Rose's voice sounded, "Everyone, leave the conference room first. But you have to pay attention, I will control the power to cleanse you. Prevent you from leaving here with this weird existence. But in this process, ordinary matter cannot withstand the cleansing of the power of time and space, so you have to pay attention." Hearing this, everyone's face slightly condensed, and they immediately knew what this meant. They all nodded and prepared. Lin Yi was very surprised at this time. This strange existence just looked at them, and it seemed that he had no intention of stopping them at all. Lin Yi felt very strange. This was obviously abnormal, as if there was some conspiracy. At this time, the fog in the conference room gradually became thicker. This was part of the body of the strange existence floating in the entire mansion, and it was forcibly gathered in the conference room under the compression of Madame Rose. The thin fog quickly appeared because of the compression, and everyone also noticed its existence at the first time. And at this time, they finally believed Lin Yi's words completely. The elders began to evacuate quickly to the outside, just when they were about to pass through the twisted barrier controlled by Madame Rose. The strange existence that had been silent all the time suddenly moved. In an instant, the strange existence that had originally turned into a human form quickly dispersed and turned into thick smoke that filled the entire conference room. At the same time, it also enveloped all the elders, Madame Rose and Lin Yi. The sudden change made everyone nervous. The power enveloped them tightly, guarding against the air full of mysterious and strange existence. The thick fog made it pitch dark in the conference room. A sense of danger instantly enveloped everyone's mind. These strange fogs were constantly rolling, and a strange power was spreading out from the fog. Everyone felt that their protective power seemed to be attacked. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 410. Originally, everyone had tried their best to resist the compressed air pressure. The sudden attack immediately put them under greater pressure. Bang, bang, bang. The violent collision sound continued to echo, and everyone was attacked. At this time, Lin Yi was also attacked. There was thick smoke from all directions, rushing towards him. But at this time, he had already used the boundless true destiny, and no force could touch him. He walked on flat ground in the smoke, and the light of the true destiny in his eyes kept flashing. He was carefully observing any wrong places. A total of 29 elders, as well as Madame Rose, were all under attack. But he soon realized the problem. Most of the smoke was just entangled with those elders and Madame Rose. The real power was concentrated on attacking one elder, and the power of that elder was the weakest among the group. It was only about the peak level of the first level of the Ghost Immortal Deo. And Lin Yi was very keenly aware of the problem, and he knew what this weird existence wanted to do. He immediately walked to the side of Madame Rose. In this dark place, other people had no idea what the other party was doing or where they were. Only Lin Yi could perceive all this. When he came to Madame Rose was surrounded by a faint space-time barrier. When Madame Rose saw Lin Yi walking out of the mist, a glimmer of surprise appeared in her eyes. Because at this time, Lin Yi gave him the feeling that he was not in the same space-time level, but in an unknown state. She couldn't even detect Lin Yi's existence through his breath. At this time, Lin Yi looked at him and said, "Madame Rose, you need to compress the space-time barrier immediately and isolate all the smoke. Because the goal of these smoke is to concentrate its strength to attack one person and then invade the other person's body. I'm afraid that as long as a part of this monster is outside, it can escape. This is its real purpose." Hearing this, Madame Rose immediately knew what was going on, and a look of realization appeared in her eyes. Without any hesitation, she directly mobilized all her strength. The space-time distortion outside the conference room quickly compressed into the conference room. The strange existence in the smoke state also noticed the actions of Lady Rose at the first time. He immediately launched a more violent attack. Especially the weakest elder in the team, whose attack was even more crazy and high frequency. At this time, Lin Yi stepped back and disappeared in front of Lady Rose. When he appeared again, he had come to the weakest Ghost Immortal Elder. After seeing Lin Yi, the Ghost Immortal Elder immediately showed a trace of vigilance. This is a female elder, wearing a plain white feathered dress. At this time, the feathered dress was emitting a faint cold white light, resisting the crazy attack from the smoke around. Her face was slightly pale, and it was obvious that the consumption of her energy was very huge. Facing an opponent who had no idea where to start, all she could do was to resist the attack. Seeing the other party exhausted, Lin Yi walked up and grabbed her with one hand. The woman did not hesitate at all, and a snow-white needle suddenly flew out of her hand, like a beautiful jade, flashing an extremely cold light. It flashed through Lin Yi's forehead, but something surprised her. Her fatal blow did not cause any damage to the person in front of her. Lin Yi's hand had silently rested on his shoulder. A faint voice sounded in his ear. "Elder, don't panic. I'm here to help you. You are the one being attacked by this strange existence because your cultivation is the lowest here. He wants to invade your body and then escape." At this time, as Lin Yi touched the feathered elder, a faint green light enveloped her. Then the elder was surprised to find that all the attacks disappeared at this moment. Or these attacks could not touch her, and passed through where she was. This scene made her unbelievable. She had no idea what was going on. At this time, after hearing the warning from Lin Yi, she also stopped the attack in her hand. She looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. He had never encountered such a power as Lin Yi. She couldn't even feel any power enveloping her, but she knew that the detective in front of her must have done something to save her from being attacked. At this time, a distorted space-time wave slowly swept across the elders. Almost every one of these elders wore defensive robes and magic tools, and these robes were made of special materials. They could withstand the power of space-time distortion, otherwise they would be exposed naked outside. But even so, all their underwear had been shattered. Every elder had a strange look on his face, but they couldn't care about it at this time. Surviving first was the most important thing. At this time, Lin Yi and the female elder also felt the space-time distortion that swept past. Under the compression of space-time distortion, the smoke quickly condensed towards the middle of the conference room. Finally, a distorted sphere the size of a human head appeared. The entire sphere is formed by the power of time and space, and it is filled with countless smoke, which is constantly swirling in the narrow space inside. The naked eye can see countless smoke constantly changing its appearance in the sphere. Sometimes it is a hideous human face, and sometimes it is a weird monster face, which changes constantly and has no fixed form. Seeing this weird thing, everyone is horrified. If this thing invades your body and devours your soul, it would be a terrifying scene. Everyone fell into a slight silence. At this time, their eyes fell on Lin Yi. After all, it was this great detective who pointed out all the traces of this weird existence, otherwise they might really die one by one in the hands of this weird monster. Although the elder of the Red Lotus Immortal sect wanted to plant all this on Lin Yi's head. But he also knew in his heart that the credit for their survival was all on this great detective. At this time, Lin Yi had let go of his hand on the shoulder of the feathered elder. Looking at the people who had completely resolved the crisis, he smiled slightly, then the mission ends here. I'll take my leave. At this time, the elder of the Red Lotus Immortal sect said coldly, you can't leave now, you are the biggest suspect in the whole thing. As he spoke, the other elders had vaguely surrounded Lin Yi in the middle of the conference room.